Okay. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Apologies for the technical difficulties up front. As smart as I am, sometimes I can be a real idiot when it comes to technology. Yeah. Anyways, this is my first live. It's probably going to be pretty unpolished and it's probably going to suck, but I'm just going to get into it. And yeah. So today we are going to be talking about CRM options and the importance of looking for CRM features and making sure that you have all the knowledge you need to make sure you pick the right CRM. So oftentimes when you're picking a CRM, it's very overwhelming, right? There's a lot of details that go into it. There's a lot of features you need to look for. And oftentimes I find that people have decision fatigue because they're just overwhelmed by the options out there. Or honestly, sometimes they just settle for a CRM that sucks and they just are tired of looking into it. So what I want to do today is I want to go over the three feature sets that you should make sure your CRM has, because the CRM is really the base of your automations, your tech stack. And it's really where I would say it's the most important piece of tech you need to look out for. So my goal here is to not make it overwhelming, to just lay out clearly what you want to look for in a CRM, and then we'll get into it. So one thing I want to say up front is a lot of CRMs will claim they have a lot of features, but I have found from personal experience, a lot of times after you subscribe, you find out that a lot of these features are actually hidden behind paywalls, or you have to add a package onto your monthly subscription, whatever it is. And it's very frustrating because you subscribe to them and you think they have all these offers and all these features. And then once you start building out your CRM, you learn that you just have to pay extra for a lot of stuff. So in this live stream, like I said, I just want to go over the three feature sets you should look for and make sure your CRM has these. So at the end of this, I'll also give my recommendation based off the size of your business and your monthly budget if you want a cheaper option or you're going to spend some money. Yeah, so that way, if you're a small, medium, or large business, you know what would be the best for you. So before I get into it, if you don't know who I am, my name is Cole Sundt. I have been automating for about 3 years now. I'm not completely self-taught. I had a mentor who taught me some basic frameworks, but past that, it's been entirely trial and error and just using resources like YouTube and ChatGPT, all these different things to help educate myself a little bit more. Specifically, I've been working in the real estate debt industry. So I work for a real estate debt fund, and I currently manage all the backend operations, CRM, and automations that we build out. So everything from investor onboarding to internal task management and to-dos, document management, document signatures, information intake, all that stuff. I've had to learn and build out, and I wish I had more resources. I found that a lot of the resources on YouTube can be helpful, but oftentimes they just don't tell you what you want to know, or you have to subscribe to their community, whatever it is, to to get the information. So a little bit of backstory about me personally. I'm a college dropout, so I don't have a fancy tech degree. I never studied coding, none of that. The highest education I've ever gone through is high school, and I didn't have any fancy training, like I said. So this stuff is all information I've learned just from trial and error. And I didn't get it from a YouTube tutorial. I didn't get it from a friend of a friend. And now I'm just regurgitating it to you. This is stuff that I learned and I found most helpful. So really the point of my channel and this video is to just educate you the best I can. And yeah, add value where I think I can. So when I talk about CRMs and automations, just know it's from the heart. It's from my own personal experiences. So the first feature group that I really want to get into is the basic CRM features and functions. Now, this may seem like an obvious point, but you'd be surprised how many CRMs say they have functions, but then after you subscribe, they're hidden behind paywalls. I won't give the name of the subscription that I started on, but when I first started automating, I picked out a CRM that had quote CRM functions and quote automation functions. What I came to find out is after I subscribed to it, the automation functions were in my level of plan. But if I wanted what they called the marketing package, I had to upgrade an extra $200 a month, something like that. It was crazy. And I was pissed off because they promised that they had both CRM and automation functions, but they didn't. So it may be surprising, but this is the biggest thing you need to look out for. So When I say the basic functions, what do I mean by that? So the first thing you need to look for is, does it have one-to-one emails and bulk emails? So what is a one-to-one email and what is a bulk email? A one-to-one email is me sending a personal email directly to someone through my CRM. So let's say I want to follow up with John Smith. I can go to John Smith's contact, click one of one email or click new email, whatever it is, and I can email him through the CRM function. The nice part about that is when John responds to me, the CRM is then going to log that and it's going to put it in the notes if it has this function. A bulk email, what that is, if I have a list of 100 people and I want to send them a newsletter or a fund report, whatever it is, I can take that automation, I can send it to all 100. Now, pretty much every CRM is going to have the bulk feature, but not a lot of them have the one-to-one feature. And I would argue that's actually one of the more important things for a CRM. An example of this is if I reach out to John Smith, again, with the one-of-one email, and my CRM can't track it, there's a chance that I missed John responding to me. And then I can reach out to him again, asking the same question. And then I look like an idiot because I think he didn't see my email, but in reality, he responded. My CRM just didn't handle it. So it's important that both one-of-one and bulk emails are included in the plan. Again, the CRM software I used to use, it said it had both of these. And then once I subscribed, I figured out the one-to-one feature was hidden behind a paywall, which is super frustrating. And for me, when someone markets to me and then I buy it, and then I found out they were just being deceptive, like super frustrating. Yeah, so it's just important to note a good CRM will allow you to handle both of these things, and you shouldn't have to pay extra to have either of these features. So the next thing that's extremely important in today's world is SMS or texting features. Now, you want to be careful with this one. There's been a lot of regulations and laws passed recently about this. But for both email and SMS, just make sure that all the contacts that you're texting or emailing have given you permission to do so. And one thing I also want to note on this is a lot of CRM platforms will have a native SMS feature, but it's okay if you want to outsource that to another party. So an example of this is I use Go High Level now for our CRM for the real estate debt fund I work for, and they have a native SMS feature through Twilio, I think, but we actually use sales message. So I would just recommend make sure they have one that's native. If you don't like it, you can always get one that you like better and just connect it in your automations. But anyways, all that to say, make sure it has at least a baseline SMS. And then if you find it doesn't meet or you want a little more customization, you can get a third party and then just connect them. So the next thing, it's very often overlooked, but it's custom deal fields and contact fields, or sometimes it's called opportunity. Opportunity and deals are interchangeable terminology. So what do I mean by this? Every CRM, it's going to have your basic contact fields. So it'll be first name, last name, email, phone number, home address, whatever it is. But you want to make sure in your CRM you can add custom contact fields and opportunity fields. What this is going to allow you is you're going to be able to customize all the information you want to keep on a customer. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you are an investment fund and you want to track a person's social security number and their bank account information. The chances are that your CRM doesn't have that as a default field. And so you can go in and click, hey, I want to track their social security and just call it SSN. I want to track their routing and their account number for their bank. It's the same on the opportunity. So again, I've gone over this in other videos, but contact data always stays with the contact. The opportunity data will change every time they do a deal or a transaction with you. So same concept. There's going to be custom fields you want for each opportunity. And so just make sure you add that. And make sure it has that, because again, it seems like a basic function, but you'd be surprised not a lot of them offer it, or some of them don't offer it. The next thing that's crucial is tags. You want to make sure your CRM has a good tag system. Now, most of them will have a tag system, but they're not all created equal. So a tag, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to segment and have different lists for different customers. An example of this is you want to make sure all of your past customers have a past investor tag. You you want to make sure all your current has an active and all your prospective are tagged prospective. That way, when you're sending out bulk messaging, whether it's SMS or email marketing, you want to make sure you're sending it to the right list, right? Because if you don't have accurate tags, you could be sending an email that's meant for an active client to a past client or prospective client, and vice versa. So you want to make sure the tags are clear, consistent, and you want to make sure you can filter them accordingly. So what I mean by that is if you go to the contact field and you want to look at all your active investors, you can click filter active investors only, and then it should give you a list. And then if it's really good, you should be able to bulk edit that list right there. So again, it seems self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how many CRMs miss the mark on this. The next one is a task functionality for contacts and opportunities. So really just think of this as a to-do list for a contact or a opportunity or deal specified to a contact. Most CRMs will have this, but not all of them are created equal. An example of this is the old CRM system I used to have. It has okay task management, but it's harder to set recurring. It's not as logical, and it just takes longer to set up. The new CRM I use has all that stuff. But again, similar to the SMS, I do want to say I actually use a third party to do and task management called Asana rather than my CRM, just because I wanted more functionality and a little bit more customization. But if I didn't need all of that stuff, if I just wanted a basic to-do list for a contact or a deal, the Go High Level, the CRM that we use has all that stuff in there. So you want to make sure it has a native task management in there. This is arguably the most important out of all of these, but pipelines for opportunities and deals. Again, most CRMs will have this, but a lot of them hide it behind a paywall, which is extremely frustrating. Again, when I first started with a different CRM, I thought I was going to have pipeline and email and SMS, but I only had pipeline and I had to pay extra for the email and SMS. It could have been reversed though. I could have subscribed for the email and SMS and had to pay extra for the pipelines. All that to say, you don't want a paywall for either of these. And a pipeline is simply a stage, stage of a business. That's a good way to explain it. I always like to say there's three major pipelines: discover, how do they learn about you; decide, how do they decide to buy from you; and delight, which is how do you treat them after they are an active client with you. So you want pipelines and stages. Stages are simply stages within each of those pipelines. So an example of this is in the discover, you'll probably have a need to contact, a nurture, a stale, all these different quote unquote categories or stages for them. But again, make sure you have the pipeline and stage features. Again, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but you'd be surprised how many CRMs don't actually offer this without having to pay extra. So these are your must-haves. This is kind of the baseline. And then from there, you can add on things that you want. But make sure your CRM has all of these things. So the next feature group I want to go over is the automation feature. Now, if you've seen any of my past content, I am a big believer in automations. I personally don't think it's going to replace the entire workforce. I think automations are a really powerful tool that can enhance your workload and your your team members' workloads. And it just really frees up your time so you can focus on high value tasks. So I do want to mention, not all automation features are created equal in CRMs. So a lot of these CRMs will say that they have automation features, but a lot of them suck, quite frankly. So you're going to be relying on Zapier or other automation platforms to bridge the gap. So really your goal is you want to make sure the CRM that you're using has at least a good baseline covering 80 to 90% of the automations you need to build out, because it's just a lot simpler if everything for your business operations just live under one platform. I will say it's pretty tough to find a CRM that can do all of it. So you probably will need a Zapier or an N8N subscription on the side, but all that to say, you want to make sure that your CRM at least covers some of it. Okay, so these are the basic automation features. The first one is if-then logic, triggers, automated emails, and SMS workflows. I know a lot of that stuff is kind of what I've gone over in the previous feature group, but you want to make sure your CRM can at least do these automations. Now, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but a lot of CRMs can do these things, but some of them do it better. So an example of this is some CRM platforms will just have simple if-then statements. So if they have this tag, then they go to this workflow. If they don't have this tag, then they go to this workflow. But then there's other CRM platforms that will have very detailed and a lot more customizable if then. So an example of that is if they have this tag and their name is John Smith and they open this email and booked an appointment with you, then go through with this automation. So not all of this is created equal. Again, I've played around with different platforms, so I know the ones that I personally like. But it's just important to know that some of them will have the basic features, but if you can, you want to find ones that are more customizable and have more. So the next one is easy integration capabilities. So as I said previously, it's very difficult to find a CRM that's going to be able to house 100% of your automations in that CRM and also house all of the apps that you want to use. So it's important that the CRM you use plays nice with other automation platforms. So whether it's make.com, Zapier, or N8N, you want to make sure that your CRM can easily work with these other platforms. That way, it just makes it more streamlined. So an example of this, again, the previous CRM that I used to use, it has okay webhooks, but it's difficult. Go High Level that I use now, it has really easy webhooks, and I can attach my CRM to Asana, for example. Again, that's a good example of this. I use Asana as a to-do list, and I don't use the Go High Level tasks, but I still wanted my tasks from Go High Level to be populated into Asana. So what I did is I connected Asana and Go High Level via Zapier, and now whenever a task is added in Go High Level, it then shows up in the correct Asana to-do list. So it's just easier to manage there. So you want to make sure your CRM has the capability and plays nice with these other platforms. That way you can bridge the gap if you want to use a third-party software or tool. So I kind of just went over this a little bit, but you want to make sure they have webhooks. So what is a webhook? It's simply a way that two apps talk to each other. Again, a good example of this is when a task is added to a contact or an opportunity in Go High Level, it then sends a webhook to Zapier. Zapier then catches that webhook, it relays all the data, and then Zapier then takes that, puts it in Asana, and then it puts it in a to-do list in my Asana. So whenever something's added in Go High Level, it then gets added in Asana instantly, which is pretty cool. So there's posting, which is your CRM pushing it out or posting it to a different platform. And then there's catching or receiving, which is just simply it's receiving data. So an example of this, again, I'll just stick with the Asana example. So when it posts it, a task gets added, a task gets added in Go High Level, it then posts it to Zapier, Zapier then adds it to Asana. Now, once I complete that task in Asana, Asana then posts to Go High Level catches that webhook, and then it clears that task in the Go High Level. So it talks both ways to each other, both when a task is added and a task is completed, which is also important if you want to make sure you don't have a bunch of overdue tasks in your CRM. So past that, one thing, it's kind of an added bonus when it comes to CRMs and automations, but you want to make sure it has folders. So I go over this probably every video I've posted, but organization is so key for your automations and your CRM. You want to make sure you have naming conventions and all that stuff. But if you can find a CRM that has folders, it's going to make your life so much easier because you don't have to worry about finding 10 different automations and having all of them live in the same spot. You can have different folders for different types of tasks, different types of automations, different email campaigns, whatever it is. Make sure that the CRM you use has folders for automations, for contacts, all of that stuff. It's going to make your life so much easier. So in reality, automation is where the magic happens. Again, a good CRM should be able to cover 80 to 90% of the automations you use. And then for that other 10 to 20%, you can just connect it with Zapier, make.com, or N8N, whatever your separate automation platform is. And I want to also just throw something out there. when it comes to automations, you want to make sure your CRM doesn't have a low automation limit. What I mean by this is a lot of CRMs can do automations, but they'll only run 1,000 tasks a month. And then if you go over that, they charge you more. So just make sure that it's not a low limit. Most of them will have limits, but if you can get one that's anywhere from 10 to about 100,000 a month, that's pretty solid. So yeah, that's just additional added bonus. Okay, so this one is kind of the cherry on top. And this is something that my old software that we used didn't have. And now High Level or Go High Level that we currently use has, and it's been a life changer. And its ability to have all-in-one features. So once your CRM nails all the basics, so it has email, SMS, one-of-one email, all of that stuff, and it also has a strong automation stack, you want to make sure it has forms, QR codes, branding options, folder organization, all of that. You want to make sure it's customizable and it's an all-in-one feature. So when I used my previous CRM, what I'd have to do is I'd use a third-party form platform and I'd collect all the information there, and then it would go in Zapier, and then Zapier would attach to the CRM, and the CRM would do whatever it needed to do. Now with High Level, my form is native within Go High Level. So whenever someone fills out a form, it then automatically pumps it into the correct automation. Now, the other platform accomplished this, but it just took more work and it was more automations I had to track and make sure it didn't break because it wasn't native. Another example of this is a QR code. So when we have marketing materials with QR code on it, we used to use a third-party service for that. Now it's within our CRM. So whenever a new contact comes to us or they scan the QR code, it puts them directly in the automation they need to go in. So all of that stuff, I would say that third feature group, having the all-in-one features, again, it's a cherry on top. So if the CRM doesn't have that, it's not the end of the world. You can still make it work. But I would recommend you look for a CRM that does have those all-in-one features. Another added bonus, if you can host your own website within your CRM, that's also extremely helpful. Again, it just allows all of your systems to talk more efficiently to each other. Okay, so I kind of went through that quickly. I was talking fast, but those are the three feature groups that I always look for. Now, if I had to take a step back and depending on my situation, I would pick different CRMs. So if I was a small company, call it 1 to 5 people, and I had pretty basic operations, the CRM I would use is either the HubSpot free plan or the starter plan or the Go High Level starter plan. If I was a medium-sized company, so call it 10 to 50 people, I would use the Go High Level agency plan, or I would use the HubSpot, I believe it's the Pro plan. And if I was an enterprise company, so call it 100 plus employees, I would use Salesforce. Salesforce is the best because it's completely customizable. It's you're basically building out your own CRM, and then you're using Salesforce's platform to push it out and make sure it runs smoothly. But I do want to say with Salesforce, just know it comes at a high ticket. I think a full custom one will be anywhere from 50 to 150,000. But if you're an enterprise company, that's probably just a rounding error for you. So you can go ahead with that. But for most companies, I always push High Level. And that's because I used to use a different platform and now I'm on High Level and the features are amazing on it. So I always recommend that to people. But I also, if you don't want to use High Level, I know there's some negative connotations around that platform. So if you don't want to use that, you can use HubSpot. Zoho is another solid CRM. But I will say one thing you want to look for is a lot of these CRMs, they are paid by user. So it might be 15 bucks a user and you think that's cheap, but then you have 10 employees. So it's 150 bucks. So one thing I love about High Level is you have unlimited users and unlimited seats within each of their plans. So whether on the starter plan, the agency plan, or the SaaS plan, you can have unlimited users. And for the medium businesses, if you have multiple, say you have multiple CRMs or automations you want to run, the agency is great for that because you can have unlimited sub accounts. So an example of that, the company I work for, we have almost 3 target audiences. The first is investors, so people to invest into our fund. The second is borrowers, so people to lend that we lend money to. And then the third is a impact real estate group that we have. So in high level, I have 3 different accounts under my account, and I manage all of them separately. They're all separate CRMs, but I just pay one price a month for all 3 of them. So it's pretty powerful stuff. I would recommend, honestly, most people use high level, but if you don't want to, again, HubSpot, Zoho, or if you're an enterprise, I would go Salesforce. Okay. I talked a little bit quicker than I thought, but if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'm happy to go through them. Yeah, crickets. There's only 4 of you, so I'm not expecting many questions. Sweet. Okay. Well, I'm gonna assume there's no questions. I want to thank you guys for being here. I know this isn't the best live stream in the world. Oh, okay. Great question. Are there additional costs associated with Zapier? So, short answer, yes. Zapier will be a separate subscription, and it's typically based off usage. So, I believe the starter plan you get 10,000 zaps a month, and then the next one is maybe 50 or 100,000. I can't remember the exact, but it's basically tiered based on how often you use it. So if you're a big company and you're running 100,000 zaps a month, it's going to be a pretty expensive platform. But if you're a company that runs maybe a couple hundred or sub 10,000, then it's pretty affordable. I think it's about $20 a month. And if you pay yearly, you get like a 17% discount. Another great question. How does it feel to be the most handsome man? I wouldn't know, but I gotta thank my dad for giving me the genetics I have. Kidding. Sorry, it's not automated related. Um, okay, sweet. Well, again, thanks everyone for tuning in. I know this is not the best production value or anything like that, but I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you found this live stream informational and helpful. So thanks, guys. I will see you at the next one.